time is it? It's 10:19. I'm out here filming this video like I ain't gotta go to work tomorrow at 7 in the morning. Woo! Okay, luckily this is my last book. Let me get it together. Okay. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Hello and welcome back to my channel, All the Stories. Today is Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there who is watching. Since it's Thanksgiving, everyone's always saying Thanksgiving is a time to talk about what you're thankful for. So today I want to talk about some books that I am thankful for, some books that I am just grateful that came to my life, some books that I'm happy I got to read, some books that impacted me or impacted my reading journey. I'm going to talk about these books in the order that I read them. So the first book that I'm going to talk about, and the one that probably had the biggest impact on me, okay, I don't know about, okay, biggest, is Eragon by Christopher Paolini. I have talked about this book on my channel before. I think I talked about it the most in my BookTube newbie tag, because this is the book that I credit with getting me into reading. This is the first book that I fell in love with, and I love this book so much, and I'm so thankful for this book, for this book coming into my life when it did, and bringing me right here. Like, this book got me right here, because this book was everything when I first read it. I read Eragon for the first time when I was in the 5th grade, and I love, okay, so first of all, I have to mention, I love dragons. Dragons are like my favorite thing ever, my favorite thing in movies, TV shows, books, real life. I just love dragons. You can ask anybody who knows me, my family, if they're watching this, they know, because my favorite book, I kid you not, my favorite book when I was in like kindergarten was Dragonheart. If you've never seen Dragonheart, stop this video right now. I mean, actually watch the whole video, but after you get off this video, please go find Dragonheart. I want to say it's on Stars. If you have Stars, that's the last place I saw it, but stop what you're doing and watch Dragonheart. Dragonheart's an old movie. I think it came out like in the early 90s. I'm gonna put this down. I want to say Dragonheart came out in the early 90s, but it's like this dragon movie following this guy named Bowen who, you know, he's a knight of the old code, and there's this dragon that he believes has wronged him in this way, so he makes it his life mission to kill this dragon, and he ends up hunting dragons to extinction almost, but he never found that one dragon he wanted to kill. So one day he ends up trying to hunt this dragon that's one of the last of its kind, and he ends up having this weird friendship, striking up this weird friendship with the dragon, and they become friends and they help each other. So they kind of end up conning these villagers out of money. Draco will go attack a village, and then Bowen will come and slay him, and then the villagers will be thankful and pay him, and it's like hilarious and sad, and it's just so many things. Like, oh, I love that movie so much. But anyways, off topic, really off topic, but point being, I love dragons. So this was my first book. I had read books before, but I had read like books like the Boxcar Children and the Bernstein Bears books, you know, like middle grade books like that you read, that every kid kind of probably reads in elementary school. But this was the first book that I read that sucked me in from page one. I loved it so much, and it was just so, I didn't know books could be like this until I read this book. I thought everything was kind of, you know, like the kid stuff you read, the Boxcar Children, Nancy Drew. Like, I read the little kitty stuff. Like, this book was a whole new level for me at that time. Like, it was game changing for me, and I just love this book so much from the bottom of my heart. If you don't know, Eragon follows the story of a boy named Eragon, and he is just like a poor farmer boy, and one day he ends up finding this stone in the forest, and the stone actually ends up being a dragon egg, and it hatches, and he becomes a dragon rider, and he has to help overthrow this evil king. It's very kind of generic when you say it that way. I mean, but I still love the story. I still think it's worth the read. I would still read it, still do read it to this day. And that's that on that. But this is the first book that I am thankful for. So the next book that I'm thankful for is a book that I read in middle school, and that is The Iron King by Julie Kagawa. And this is actually just the entire Iron Fate series in general. I am thankful to this series because It is the first series that got me into romance in books. Prior to this book, I had read books that had romances in them. Of course, Aragon has a little romance in it. I read Harry Potter at the time, and that has, of course, a very, very, very minor subplot of a romance. I read Percy Jackson, which of course has the whole Percy Beth subplot again. But this is the first book that I read that was 1000% like focused on the romance, very romance heavy. Okay, maybe that's a lie. I think I read Twilight, perhaps. I read Twilight around the time that I read this, so maybe I read Twilight first. But I actually didn't really like. I was Team Jacob, and if you read Twilight, she ends up with Edward. So I wasn't invested in the main romance. So this is the first book that I was just ride or die invested in the romance. Like these characters needed to be together. I was so invested in the romance. I needed it to happen. I needed it to happen immediately. I was so invested in Megan and Ash's relationship that it was ridiculous. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I ate the series up. I read each book, I think, as they came out. I don't remember. I think the first couple may have been out. I don't remember exactly, but I read them as they came out, and I was in love from start to finish. So this story, if you don't know, follows our main character Megan Chase, and it is also my first Faye story. How did I forget that? This is another thing I'm thankful for because this is my first Faye story, and I'm in love with Faye stories. I've read most of the mainstream popular ones, a few non-mainstream popular ones, but this was the very first Faye book that I ever read, and it was a Faye romance, and that's on brand for me. But I love this so much. It follows our girl Megan Chase, and she is, or believes she is, just your average human girl. She is from like a poorer family, so she's not very popular in school. She wears hand-me-down clothes, whatever. Then one day her brother is kidnapped and he is taken away, and she finds out that he has been taken actually into the world of the Fae, a world she didn't even know existed. And once she goes in search of him in this fairy world, she finds out that she is actually a part of it. She is half Fae, and not just any half Fae. She is the daughter of the Seelie King, and she must go on this journey to get her brother back. And alongst the way, she is joined on her adventures by this dark prince and her best friend, who is none other than Robin Goodfellow. So I love this series. It is 100% romance heavy, fantasy romance, kind of urban fantasy, almost like a portal fantasy. And it is so good. I loved Megan and Ash. It also has like a little bit of a love triangle, but of course it's like every other love triangle. You already know who the main character is going to end up with. So not the best love triangle, but it does have a little love triangle in it. A little angst, a little tension. I do need to reread this soon. I know that Fairy Loot or Fae Crate, one of the two, I think it's Fairy Loot, has recently announced that they are going to release a collector's edition set of the entire series, and I'm definitely going to buy that because these covers are god awful, and I do love this series, so I would love to have some pretty editions of the entire series. But these covers, if you don't, I don't know. Okay, my ring light is making it very bright, but these covers are very awful. And this is the best one of the series, and that is saying something. Like, let me show you the awfulness. Book 2. They just get worse and worse as the series goes on. And then book 3. Who cropped these? Like, why is her face, like, who decided this was cute? It's not cute, okay? It's real not cute. So, okay, like I said, book 1's cover, it's okay. It's the best of the 3, so not saying much, but saying something, I guess. So the next book that I am thankful for is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is a book that I'm thankful for because this is the first book that I could truly see myself in. This is the first book where there was the main character looked like me, she talked like me, she had a life story similar to mine. Like, this is the first book where I could truly say the character reminded me of myself. So as a young black girl, growing up, there were not a lot of stories where there were young black girls as the main character. And to say that me reading this book when I was 18 or 19 was the first time I truly saw myself in a character is saying a lot. Is sad, honestly. But now we don't have that problem because there's so many books with black girls with the main character on the cover. Like, well, this ain't the video for that, but is it? Okay, I feel like every video is the video for that, let's be honest. But not what we're talking about at the moment. I'm gonna do a video about that. There's definitely gonna be a video that's gonna be the whole moment. Look out for that in February because it's happening. I'm seeing it in my head. I already have this video planned out. But anyways, this is the first book that I saw myself in. Star is our main character. She is black, but she goes to a predominantly white school. It talks about her having to change how she talks, change how she acts while she's at school because she is one of the only black students. She has to code switch when she goes to school, acts one way at home, acts one way at school. And then also, like, she likes things like it's kind of taboo to talk about now, but like this is the first book that had Harry Potter references, and as a child, I really loved Harry Potter. So to read about Star loving Harry Potter as a child, and just like a lot of things from her, the way she wears her hair, to her talking about sneakers, to her going to school and talking about how she feels at school and how she feels when people say things. Like this was the first book that I can be like, oh yes girl, how her mom talks to her, how she's scared, like when she said something back to her mom, she like caught herself like, oh my god, my mom is gonna kill me. Like everything, the whole package of Star was just right. And that was the first time I could say that I saw that in a book. So, and it was also just a great book. On top of that, of course, there are obvious trigger warnings for this book. But if you do not know what The Hate You Give is about, it follows our main character Star. And one day she is coming home from a party with her friend Khalil. They are pulled over by the police, and Khalil is shot and killed by a police officer, and it follows the aftermath of that, and Star dealing with that, and Star dealing with being the only person who witnessed this, and this hitting the media, and them saying these negative things about Khalil and painting him to be a hoodlum or a bad person, and it's just dealing with Star deciding whether or not to come forward and testify. This book was published years ago, and these topics are still 100% very relevant right now. So if you have not read this, I do believe this is a very, very good book to have on your shelves and to have read. Yep, girl, that sounded smart. So next is one of my favorite books that I read last year. Another book that I am thankful for is Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. I don't believe I have ever talked about this book on my channel because I read this last year after I had stopped posting videos, and then of course I started posting videos this year, but I haven't talked about this yet. But this is honestly one of my favorite books. I listened to the audiobook for this, and I listened to that audiobook in one sitting. Like I started it kind of on a whim, like it was on script, and I was like, oh, I've been meaning to read that. I picked it up, and I listened to that book in one sitting. I had my headphones in and did not take them out until I finished the entire book. I loved this book so much. It follows our main character Pablo, and Pablo has dropped out of school. He graduated from high school, he went to college, he went to this expensive college because that's what you're kind of told to do, and he just doesn't really have any life plans. He doesn't know what he wants to do, he doesn't know where he wants his life to go. So he ends up, I think he is dropped out or kicked out of school, and he is living in this apartment with his friends, and everyone's life is kind of going on, and he just really doesn't have any goals. He's working at a bodega because he just needs a job. That's obviously not where he wants to be in his life. He's just trying to make ends meet. He doesn't have any idea of where he wants to be in life, what he wants to do with his life. He's just in that weird in-between period between high school and actually being an adult. Like, when you're younger, you always have this next step. Like, you're in kindergarten, your next step is first grade. But after you get to after you graduate, you're told to go to college, and then everything's going to work itself out from there. But it kind of doesn't. Like, so to see Pablo, the reason this book meant so much to me and impacted me so deeply is because I was, at the time that I read this, that was exactly where I was in my life. Obviously not exactly, okay, I'm not going to say exactly because I did not drop out of school. I had just recently graduated though when I read this, and I did not have any direction. I did not know. Why am I lying saying did? I do not have any direction. I do not know where I want my life to go. I have graduated and gotten this degree, and I do not know my next steps. And I have never read a book where the character just didn't know where they wanted to go. Usually in like YA books, everyone has like a clear idea of what they want to do with their life. Like, oh, I'm gonna go to doctor. I'm gonna be a doctor. I'm gonna be a graphic designer. Like, it's really unrealistic. Not everybody knows what they want to do in their life. And this book heavily just really this book just really follows Pablo as he is wandering aimlessly, trying to figure out what he needs to figure out. He doesn't even know what he needs to figure out. And that is why I love this book. That is what the book is really about. But it does have like an actual plot. The plot being that Pablo works at this bodega and he works the night shift at the bodega. And one day this girl walks in and she's really pretty. And he starts having this conversation with her. It's like midnight, it's the middle of the night. And she walks in and she buys some snacks and they end up having this conversation. And he thinks she's really pretty and he likes her and they have this good little back and forth. And then he finds out that she is a international pop star. And that's why she seemed a little familiar to him. She is a very, very famous singer. And then they end up meeting again. She comes back into the bodega and they end up having this kind of relationship develop between them. But overall, this book was amazing. If you have not read this book, I highly recommend it. And also the cover is beautiful. Would it be me if I didn't mention that the cover was beautiful? And the cover is beautiful because this cover is beautiful. Hello, you have this, and then the back. My ring light is really giving this a bad glare because this cover is plastic. But then you take off the cover, and then it's just beautiful under the dust jacket as well. Like Mary H.K. Choi's team did that. So my final book that I am thankful for is one that is probably shocking to no one if you have watched any of my recent videos, and that is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. So we're going to bring it full circle. As I said at the very beginning of this video, I love dragons. I love dragon books. I love anything to do with dragons, dragon TV shows, dragon books, dragon movies. I eat it up. I eat it up. It's my favorite thing. Okay? So if you tell me your book has dragons in it, I'm gonna buy it. Point blank, period. I don't care what else the plot's about. I don't care how much the dragons show up. I don't care if they're a main plot, a subplot, a back plot, a side plot. I don't care. I will read the book. So fast forward, I find out there's a book about dragons. But not only is the book about dragons, it is written by a black author and all the characters are black. As I said, my favorite book from childhood was Aragon. From childhood to this day. Okay, it may not be my number one favorite book to this day, like at the moment, but it's a favorite to this day. And I have never, not say never. Aragon had a black character, a singular one, but she was an amazing black character. She was a boss ass black character. She ruled shit, okay? She got shit done. She was amazing. Read Aragon for Nasuda and Nasuda alone because she is a boss, okay? Point blank, period. But we're not talking about Aragon anymore, Kristen. We are talking about The Rage of Dragons. So I said that to say, dragons are my favorite thing. To have a book that is about dragons, that is written by a black author, that features black characters was game-changing for me. And it's probably why this is... I don't like to call books my favorite book, but this is... I'm gonna commit right here and say that this is my favorite book at the moment, and this is my favorite book at the moment, and I can't even put into words how much it meant to me to pick up a book and see characters that are described as looking like me or people like me or looking like my mom or my brother or my best friend, people with locks or kinky hair or coily hair, people with dark skin in magical settings. Seeing black characters in magical settings does something, it hits different. Okay, it hits different because I never got to see that when I was a child, and fantasy books have always been my favorite genre. So to read these books, and this book in particular because dragons are my favorite thing, and I have never, ever, ever seen a dragon book that has a black main character, not just a black main character, black cast of characters. Like, it hit different, and it's well written on top of that, even without that being something that's important to you. This book is well written. It is action-packed. It is phenomenal. And to have this phenomenal book written by this phenomenal black man with these phenomenal black characters, it made my day. It made my year. I loved this book, and representation matters, and this book was everything I ever needed in a book. It had everything I ever needed in a book. And I am so thankful to Evan Winter. I'm so thankful that I got to read this book. I'm so thankful that this book exists. I'm so thankful that this book exists. I'm so thankful that this series exists in this world, and I get to read these stories by these Black authors about these Black characters, about these characters that look like me, and about these amazing magical stories and magical things happening to these people and characters that look like me. And it is different. That's all I gotta say. But read The Rage of Dragons for clear skin, because it'll change your life. If you want to know more about this book, I do have a dedicated review, so I will link that down below if you would like to see my review and my in-depth 20-minute long thoughts, raves, rants, gushing joy about this book. I will link that video down below for you. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I would like for someone in the comments to let me know a book that they're thankful for, because I would like to see what you have to say. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!